Alright, when guys learn guitars, a lot of time, it's not just for the love of the music. It's to try and be cool, to try and fit in, try and get chicks. And some women do play guitar, probably for more pure reasons in the beginning. And everyone has an ego to be served. This can certainly help. But hopefully, as you get more involved with it, you begin to do it for the love of the music, the love of the instruments, and the peace and serenity that it can help bring you. So really, what we're going to talk about today, we talked a little bit about the key of C in the last video, and learning the neck. Not just a little portion of it, but the entire neck. Now we're going to talk a little bit about simple rhythms and solos. So everybody typically gets into a band and they want to be the guy who plays the solo. And you know, when you're just starting off, there's a whole bunch of ego in grade school and high school bands about who learns what song and how well they play it. And typically all they ever want to learn is, you know, the opening riff, so they can kind of make it seem like they know the song without actually learning all of the parts of the song, and then the first 10 notes of the solo. It gets a little old, right? You know, if you're in bands and everybody's doing exactly the same thing and it all sucks. So what I found out as I got older and was exposed to a much larger environment than the local town and the local egos is that you can have fun playing either roles. You can have fun playing a rhythm, you can have fun playing lead, but where you really start to have fun is when you get into different, what they call creative modes. And as you get better and more familiar with things, and you go up the scale of the creative mode itself being the highest, the pinnacle of the scale, the feeling is just unbelievable. It's like being on any drug you can imagine, having any experience you can imagine, and then afterwards, you know, there's no letdown from everything else that makes you feel that way. So what we're going to do is just throw down a real basic rhythm track here and then talk about how you can solo over it. It's going to be a very basic E blues. Now, one major sin that I'm doing on these videos, because luckily enough now I have a pretty fine instrument, is not checking the tuning of my guitar. Bad sin. I have friends who are cork sniffers, you could call them, who have t-shirts that say tune or die, right? So if you're not necessarily the most experienced player and you go in and one of your strings is off tune, your rhythm, your solo, it's going to be a lot worse. So let's just make sure we're on tune. We'll use standard harmonic tuning except for the B. Pardon the sump pump. So I've been jamming the hell out of this guitar, and it's a much better instrument than I've had in the past and has Grover tuners, so it rarely goes out of tune. It would have been just fine there, but hopefully now, less clunkers. Okay, let's get started. Again, key of C, E jam, down the neck, standard, pretty much standard 8-bar blues. But we'll throw a couple twists in. Now let's just drop down one string to the A string. Now I could drop down to the A string again, but what I want to do is run down again the length of the neck instead of just playing in a box, going from ceiling to floor. probably used to just you can do that as well, but you know, throwing in a couple of half steps here and there. When I drop down to play the E, still playing a quick 2-note riff on the E string before sliding down to what is again a B chord to an A. Same thing as this. You're just going up and down the neck. G. Sounds cooler if I finish and go to the B chord just to throw you off a little bit. Gives it a little bit more interest and not repeating the same pattern over and over and over again. So we can jam to that a whole bunch of different ways, but probably my favorite way is a scale that's called the E minor pentatonic, and it works over a whole bunch of different keys. So you can learn this, not even know what key you're playing, or the band you're jamming with or the guy you're jamming with is playing. That's typically going to work. If it doesn't, you can just move it down a couple of frets until it does. Alright, so here we go. Using it in a box. If you have a guitar that's nice enough, Epiphone Custom Shop here, you can do it 12 frets down exactly. And that's not so good. Let's try that again. Try that again. Alright, you get the idea. Hopefully your technical skills at a young age are better than my arthritic and carpal tunnel skills. Now another scale that's part of that almost every teenage kid in the world knows about, starting at the 12th fret, so more than just knowing the neck, the patterns, in order to really be able to solo, you have to use different techniques. Repetition is one technique. The brain, the listener, picks up on repetition. They hear it in music and it naturally helps them engage and relate to it. So if you're just playing a stream of notes with absolutely no repetition or absolutely no melodic quality to it, the listener's probably going to get bored unless they're hammered, which, you know, hey, that's an option too. So, okay, that's just a little bend that you could repeat and pull into a solo that will help bring some continuity to it. Now the other mistake that most young guitar players make is they just want to solo through the